Imagine, if you will, a world without time, a world where there's no future, where there's no past, where there's no present. It sounds like this is the beginning of a sci-fi story. Well, I'm actually kind of serious. English works with tenses, a tense system. And because of the way that our language is structured and then everything else is structured along with language, we can't help but think of ourselves in every moment as either right here in the moment or in the past, thinking about something that has happened at any time before this moment, or anything that is about to happen right after this moment, be it in 10 years or in 2 seconds. So English has present tense, future tense, past tense. And often when people learn Hebrew, they learn the forms, the verbal forms for the conjugations as now I'm learning the present tense, now I'm learning the future, now I'm learning the past, right? Atid means future, avar is the past. So by the time that Mishnaic Hebrew developed, by the time of the rabbis, and then this was preserved for much of Siddur Hebrew and Hebrew through until the modern period, Hebrew did switch to a tense system. But in biblical Hebrew, the tense system does not seem to work. That is to say that there are so many times when we encounter a verb that we would call future, but it's not signifying anything that has to do with the future, or vice versa. And so scholars have developed this concept that biblical Hebrew is not based on tense, right? The verbal system is not tense-oriented, but rather aspect-oriented. So this means, and we'll get into this in greater detail in our lessons, but essentially it means that we have what's called the perfect and we have what's called the imperfect. Forget about any associations you have with perfect as being perfect, but rather perfect indicates something that is complete, done. So if I say something like, last night I read a great book, that would be the perfect. It's something that happened and it's done. That action is completed. I read the book, I'm no longer reading the book. But if I say something like, I have been reading this really great book, well, that's imperfect. That's ongoing. It's not really specific to a time, and we don't know. Well, if I say, I've been reading a great book, it's more open-ended. Am I still reading it? How far along am I? Am I going to be continuing to read it this evening or in the next couple of days? And so that's the imperfect. So we will have to reassociate our minds, unless this is the first time you're in Hebrew, in which case you can go straight into this concept, that what is often called the past tense is really the perfect aspect. And what we call the future tense in Hebrew is really the imperfect. And again, we'll get into all of this in a lot more detail as we start learning the conjugations and looking at examples in the text where translating something as if it were the future tense would make absolutely no sense.